In this video, we're going to go over what double blind means, and then we're also going to do an intro discussion on lurking variables. So in the previous video, we talked about this concept in statistics called a blindness to the treatment. And again, that's when all people in the experiment have no clue who's receiving the treatment and who's not. And we use this example of an Atkins diet. I think to explain this concept of blindness, it might help to think of probably the first thing when we think of any treatment, and that's any sort of medicine, right? And anytime we conduct an experiment where the treatment actually is medicine, we call that a clinical trial. All right. So let's say we wanted to study the effects of an antibiotic and how quickly that's going to be effective in having a person come back from being sick and get back to work. Okay, and in studying this experiment and doing a clinical trial for this new antibiotic, we work with 30 people again, and 15 of them are going to receive the antibiotic, and the other 15 people are not going to receive that antibiotic. Well, let's say the antibiotic is in the form of a pill. It's a white pill that they're going to take 3 times a day. We want people in both groups taking a white pill 3 times a day, whereas in only one of the groups is actually going to be the antibiotic. The other one is going to look exactly like the antibiotic, but it's going to be a sugar pill. Okay, that's in that case, that sugar pill is called the placebo, and that phenomenon of everybody in the group thinking they're taking the actual treatment, that's called a blind. Okay, now in that scenario, as the experimenter, I know what person's taking the placebo and what person's actually taking the antibiotic. But let's take that concept of blind a step further. And if the person conducting the experiment, as well as the people in the experiment, don't know who's receiving the treatment and who's receiving the placebo, that's called double blind. All right. And the reason we would look at using a double blind experiment is it removes some bias from observing the results, right? If I'm the one conducting this experiment and I'm the one that's trying to prove that this antibiotic is effective, then subconsciously I'm going to be biased towards that treatment group. I'm going to be biased to say that, you know what, this is more effective. They're getting back to work quicker, and it's removing the virus or the illness, whatever it is, so to speak. Um, if I create a double blind experiment, I have a third party who comes in and assigns people to either taking the treatment or to people taking the placebo, and that's not. I have no knowledge of that, right? I'm observing once the experiment is taking place, and I kind of go from there. So a double blind, again, is when both the subject and the experimenter have no knowledge of, we'll say, who is receiving the treatment and who is not. All right, and again, that's double blind. We do this to reduce bias. All right, and again, that's double blind in a nutshell. Let's talk about a lurking variable next. All right, and a lurking variable is an explanatory variable but not studied or detected or taken into consideration during the experiment. So let's take a look at let's discuss our previous example um, where we looked at the Atkins diet, and we want to see if the Atkins diet is a way to lose weight. Okay, and let's actually go back up to the design here. All right, and again, we see this group of people who are on the Atkins diet. Let's say they have a significant weight loss, right? And we see in their group that they've lost a lot more weight than the group who was not on the Atkins diet. Okay, the question we have to ask ourselves is, can we attribute that decrease in weight loss solely to what I'm highlighting here in green, the Atkins diet? And hopefully, if you can kind of think about this and use your reason, it would be naive to think that just doing the Atkins diet is going to have a group lose weight at a quicker rate than the other group. Um, the biggest lurking variable I can think of in this experiment is genetics. Right? Some of us are um, more prone to being able to lose weight than others, right? And let's just say, for example, in this group, and again, we assign these people randomly, but let's just say these 15 people had better genes suited to lose weight than the 15 people in group two. Okay, and again, let's just say these 15 people right here, I'm going to circle them in blue, and we're going to put a little note, just say they had the better genes, the better genetic makeup. All right, that is definitely going to play a role in losing more weight than the control group. So again, I can't say for certain if it's solely isolated to the Atkins diet that is having them lose weight. So again, the lurking variable in this case would be genetics, because it does explain how the response variable would act that weight loss, but it's not studied in our experiment.